We continue with the Noble Eightfold Path. We're still in the topic of the Four Noble Truth, and we are currently at the morality. So now, last week on Wednesday, I spoke about the four aspects of morality. And these four aspects beginning with number one as intention, number two as mental factors such as metta or compassion and so on, wholesome mental factors. And then the third one, virtue, sila, falls as a restraint. You can look at it as a restraint. There are restraint of patimokkha restraint by mindfulness, restraint by knowledge or wisdom, restraint by patience, restraint by effort. And then we have the fourth part is the non-transgression. That means you make a vow, you make a pledge, you take up your precepts. When you chant the 5 precepts, 8 precepts, and so on. So you make a vow, you undertake that precept and you do not transgress that precept. So however your virtue falls, it will fall under one of these ways. So it's just as virtue has a 4 different aspects. A 4 different aspects. So tonight we're going to look into a more finer details into the virtue, because I think that this type of virtue or sila or morality, first of all, you must not think of virtue or sila as just your 5 precepts and your 8 precepts and so on. Not just the precept. The precept here, like the 5 precepts, these are the red line that you should not cross. Because if you cross that red line, then there will be a lot of consequences, a lot of unhappy resultant that will come to you. So these are the red line. But before that, sometimes we are angry, sometimes we are a lot of craving, attachment, and so on. It may not see it as a breaking of precept, but that is also fall under virtue. We want to use the virtue to help us to iron out those rough edges. You're not necessarily like breaking a precept, but they also fall under precept. They still fall under sila, because sila here we want to smoothen the rough edges of our behavior and our speech. And that will be very important when it comes to mental cultivation. So tonight we'll look into it further, see what we can see. Okay. Now, first of all, we look into the characteristics. Why we call it a sila? View, focus. Okay. Now, I may make it bigger a little bit so that y'all could see. Oh, too big. Now, why is... Hold on. Okay. All right. Now here the character. Wait. Can you all see? Yeah. Okay. Good. Now, first of all, we're going to look into the characteristic of sila. Why is it that a certain action falls under sila and certain actions is not under sila, or action or speech or mind? So we want to see that what all the all kinds of sila and all kinds of bodily action. Whenever there's wholesome, how is it that the sila is like? So the first characteristic here is composing or coordinating the bodily actions, speech or mind in consistent manner. In consistent manner. That is to say, for example, we take an example like abstinence of killing. When I say abstinence of killing, that means once you undertake the vow, let's say you undertake the non-transgression of non-killing, so from now onwards and in the future, the act of non-killing is upheld. In a sense that whenever you see a thing that you want to kill, but you pull your mind back, oh, I should not kill because I'm taking up a precept, I'm taking up a vow, for example. So you want to have that consistency, the wholesome consistency. So therefore, because of its consistency and it coordinates that action of yours so that it does not kill in that sense. Or if you look into it as a dana, also possible. Again, in dana that you want to offer, you want to give. And then here again, whenever your intention, your desire to arise to give, then that time again from here and also in the future, when you vow to give or you wish to give in that sense, then you do the act of giving. Then that act of giving is being upheld. And then that act of killing, because it's consistency from now and also in the future, then it falls under as a characteristic. So because it composes or it coordinates your bodily actions or your speech and mind. And now also, like in the social media also, sometimes a lot of times we forget that we spend a lot of time in our social media, like Facebook, like Instagram, like YouTube, and so on. That we more or less like we get absorbed into the website or into the contents and so on. We can sit there for hours. Computer jhana nowadays. So here sometimes we have to remind ourselves that here when we are in the social media also, although we are not talking, but our hands are moving, our fingers are moving. That fingers are moving, then we spread our thoughts, we spread our views and so on, And then that time also, if you are to flame, or you want to troll, or you want to make other people get angry, then you write nasty things, or you create a nasty video, or you create a fake video, or create a fake messages, so on, And then, therefore, when other people read it and believe it, you create karma, you create unwholesome karma. And then that, of course, that one is not under virtue. So even in social media also, we must act as if with the right speech also, although we don't use our mouth, but we use our fingers this time. So we must do it with like for example, non-slandering or non-lying or non-schism, in that sense that you do not want to break factions, you don't want to break this faction and break that factions. And then nowadays, we also have to keep our words to be proper, in the sense that we should not go and troll or going to flame other people. Then when you do that, then it becomes problematic, and it creates a lot of confusion for others and so on. And then again, like characteristic of media, characteristic of sila, you want to, let's say you want to purchase online, from some this online shopping. So of course, when you want to purchase that thing, what do you do usually? So you go to that particular website, and then you look for that product that you want, or you choose the product that you want. Now, after choosing that product that you want, usually you will look at the next thing is that what did the people report, or what did the people write down in the comments. Now, when they write down in the comments, you will able to read that whether the merchant, the online merchant, is he or is she honest? Is she able to solve some problem in the amicable manner? Of course, in the online, nothing goes perfect. It's just like even in your normal business also, nothing goes perfect. But it's a matter of how you're able to solve the problem. Now, if you see that over this merchant has been many years in the online services, and consistently he has got a very good feedback from the customers or clients, and then they like his service because his service is straightforward, very clear. What he advertises or what she advertises is what you get, and sometimes this is something that you want to look for because you put your trust in doing that purchase. Yeah. So therefore, in that sense, that honesty, that straightforwardness, that clarity of the person, that is the virtue. Yeah? That is the virtue, and he has been or she has been consistent in doing his business in straightforward manner, not cheating people, not try to swindle people, not to scheme the way through, not to try to get a quick buck here and there. No, but it's more like a very straightforward, very clear cut. And then because of that, over time, people see that his consistency in that manner, and you wish to buy from the merchant, although sometimes it may be cost slightly a little bit more, but you know that you are going to get a better service compared to others. So because of that, consistency, that is what we call consistency when they're doing a business in that sense. Then because of that, your name and your fame is being recorded nowadays in the social media. Is recorded, is being on the website that people can read. Yeah? So this is the characteristics in the sense of its consistency in that manner. Then the next characteristic of sila is as a basis and foundation for wholesome mental states to arise. Okay? Basis in the sense that all here, that the day I gave this particular sutta also. This particular sutta, it begins from Das Ananda. The purpose and benefit of wholesome virtuous behavior is non-regret. And then with non-regret, it comes with this joy. This is the everyday type of happiness, everyday type of joy, pamoja. Then with the purpose and benefit of joy is rapture. When it comes to rapture, as I said, it goes into when you start to mentally develop the mind. Then the rapture, the piti is there. Then with the piti, then comes with the purpose and benefit of tranquility. Tranquility, that means the mind is free from all the hindrances of thinking and restlessness and so on. Then with that calmness, it comes with the pleasure, that means sukha, pleasant feelings. And pleasant feelings come concentration. Concentration comes into knowledge of things as they really are. That means they begin to penetrate into the true nature of things. Then with the true nature, you can able to penetrate, and then you begin to see the disenchantment, the dispassion. That is to say, you begin to see anicca, dukkha, anatta, in that sense. And then with all this disenchantment, dispassion comes the knowledge and vision of liberation. So therefore, this wholesome, virtuous behavior progressively leads to the foremost. That means it finally leads to liberation. So here, the morality here is for the sake of the liberation. Now, when you perform any wholesome deeds, or you abstain from unwholesome deeds, that these two will come, okay? Coordinating or composing, and then the basis for wholesome mental states, both of it will come automatically. Yeah? But what it will not come, whether you direct the virtue for liberation or not, that is optional. That is optional unless you know how to take up that option. If you do not know how to take up that option, then the sila will be for something wholesome states to arise. That means happiness and so on to arise, minus the liberation, minus the seeing things as they really are. But if you learn from the Buddha, if we learn the Dhamma and we reflect on the Dhamma and we develop the Dhamma in us, then we add another thing, is in the sense that that virtue, that morality, that sila is for the sake of liberation. So a lot of times we talk about parami and perfections. Perfection is although we have 10 perfections, but the whole principle of perfections of this parami, where you have like dana, you have sila, you have nikama, and so on. And all these perfections, again, here is to be directed for perfection, directed for liberation, directed for nibbana, directed to the ending of the cycle of birth and rebirth. So those, if you direct the mind, then it becomes parami. If you don't direct the mind, if you do a lot of dana, and you have a lot of happiness, but it's not perfection, it's not parami. It's just ordinary dana, for example. But virtue, whether it's connected with liberation or not, these first two will always come. These two, and the moment that you perform the sila, or you perform the sila, then the wholesomeness will come. So this is the two things that you have to get to know. Whichever way, however way that you do the sila. All right. Then the next thing is the function of sila. Now the function of sila here is to stop a misconduct. That means anything that is unwholesome, that you stop it. Then after that, the second one, you achieve the quality of blamelessness of the wise people. Stop misconduct, that is quite simple, that we abstain from the killing, stealing, lying, slandering, and so on. That's called stopping the misconduct. Then the second one, we need to cover a little bit more. Now the second one here is what we call blamelessness of the wise people. To achieve the quality of blamelessness of the wise people. The problem is that in the world right now, when we are in the world, virtue or sila is not necessarily being praised. huh? In fact, that sometimes the unwholesomeness is being praised. Unwholesome actions, unwholesome thoughts, and unwholesome speech is being praised by the many. Yeah. Take, for example, again, like when you are doing a business. Yeah. You do a business, and then you cheat your way through. You cheat your way to get all the wealth, the money, and you let your you cheat them in the sense of you give them an inferior thing, although you advertise it as a more superior things. But when you present it to them, when you offer it to them, when you sell it to them, you sell it in an inferior manner, and then you gain a lot of money. And then people will say that, wow, you are excellent. You can know how to make business. You know your way, this way, that way, every way of this, how to get the money from people. Then a lot of people will praise you, or so-called praiser. Now, in that type of praise, this is not blamelessness of the wise. This is the this is when you do in that way, when you did those action in that way, this is praised by the fools. You're praised by the fools. So this is not achievement of blamelessness, in that sense. So people praise you for that and so on. This is not that way. Nowadays in the world, that when we're able to, for example, like when you are killing, stealing, then also in the world sometimes they give you honor for it. For example, if you are a soldier and your job is to protect, but sometimes in the nature of protect, you have to kill others. You have to kill others, whether you call it your enemy or not. The karma doesn't care. The karma care is that the killing has been done. For what purpose? That's just another thing. But the killing has been done. It's an intentional killing. A lot of times. Then with that intentional killing, then is being praised by the country. So the country honors you, or the country gives you the medal and so on. So this is not what it meant over here. So here, to achieve the quality of blamelessness, that means this quality is being approved by the wise. So when you are straight, when you conduct your business in the honest manner, in the straight manner, in a wholesome manner, then not many people will praise you, but the wise will praise you. And also there's only a small percentage of people will praise you. But in the world, when we are living, when you are bombarded with a lot of more praiseworthy, more praises from the fools, then sometimes you tend to follow them. Because if your virtue, if your sila is not strong, then you begin to lean onto that part, because there are more people who are talking about that action and that unwholesome action rather than the wholesome action. So in the world is that there are more fools than the wise. Out of 10 people, some people say 9 fools will be born, 1 will be wise. So there are more voices in that part. So while we are in the world out there, when we conduct our ways of life, we conduct our business or our everyday, chores and everything. So we got to be careful. We got to be careful that we got to exercise certain we got to exercise certain wisdom and also our virtue into it. Yeah? If not, when we hear a lot of praises from the fools or a lot of people, then we tend to follow them. So that this one you have to be careful. Yeah? So because you are the one who meets with a lot of people, I don't meet with a lot of people. Yeah. Now, so to achieve the quality of blamelessness of the wise people, yeah, then the manifestation of sila, when you're able to uphold those sila, then you will come as bodily purity, verbal purity, and mental purity. That means purify yourself from the mental defilements, especially from the unwholesome actions and the unwholesome speech. Yeah? And this one, it's so important when you want to cultivate the mind. Yeah? All right. The next thing we have to see also is the proximate cause. Yeah. Now the proximate cause here is there's two, hiri and ottappa. Proximate cause means that what are the nearest cause for your morality to arise? Whenever you have this hiri and ottappa, yeah, moral shame or moral conscience, and ottappa, moral fear, moral dread. These two are, both of them are wholesome mental factors. They are wholesome mental factors, and they come whenever you have a wholesome mental state. Even when you are meditating, and of course, when your mind is pure, when your mind is not drifted into into thinking, not drifted into all kinds of sensual desire or anger, then when your mind is pure, then the hiri ottappa also is there. So while we are meditating, also this hiri ottappa also is functioning. But whenever they becomes more forefront, whenever you have action for you to abstain, especially like when you want to do you want to perform something unwholesome, you want to do something unwholesome, then this moral shame is like, or moral conscience, like inside your heart you feel that this is something wrong. Sometimes you can't pinpoint it that this is wrong. Sometimes in your virtue, in your sila, in your everyday thing, things may not be so just like, okay, killing, non-killing, lying, non-lying, but sometimes there are things who are more gray area. And the gray area part is that when you are in that situation, then your mind may not able to, your wisdom may not able to guide you. But this time you fall back into this moral conscience, and then you find that this is something wrong. You feel that it's not right. And you find that something unpleasant or something quite unwholesome in that sense. You can't pinpoint it, but you find that. So that is something like, is what we call hiri, a moral conscience. Ottappa here, ottappa here means you moral fear, moral dread. That means you fear of the unpleasant resultant due to the unwholesomeness here, due to unwholesome bodily action, unwholesome speech, or unwholesome thought. So you fear of its consequences. Consequences, it can be in this life or it can be in future lives. For example, in this life, not necessarily only karma or in the sense of killing and stealing, in the sense of that karma thing. It could be just be like the lockdown right now. You are afraid of going out. Well, if you go out, then if you flock with people, then you get a compound fine. Then you say, I better don't go out, stay at home. If not, you lose your 1,000 ringgit, something like that. You fear. This is called ottappa. So even though it's the same thing like you when you want to break traffic rules, the traffic light, you go through the red light, and then you stop. Even sometimes there's no car, so you stop. Why? Because if you were to break that law, then if they capture you on camera, they still can able to find you. So because you know that, then you hold back, because you think that although you know that there's nobody around, in front, left, right, center, nobody around, but you still don't go because you know that you're going to get some fine if you break the law. So this is in the sense of ottappa, sense of ottappa. So the two of these combined together, and usually they will come together. Usually both of them come together, and of course when there will be one can be more clearer, sometimes the other one is more clearer. So this also the Buddha mentioned it as called loka pala dhamma. Is guardians of the world. Loka. Pala here is guardian of the world. Now here where the Buddha mentioned here, in the Anguttara 2.9, book of the two, because these two bright qualities protect the world. What two? Moral shame and moral dread. If these two bright qualities did not protect the world, there would not be seen here any restraint regarding one's mother, aunts or wives of one's teachers and other respected people. The world would become promiscuous, like goats and sheep, chickens and pigs, dogs and jackals. But because these two bright qualities protect the world, there is seen here restraint regarding one's mother, aunts, or wives of one's teachers and other respected people. So this is what the Buddha mentioned on these two qualities, hiri and ottappa. And also in the time, in future, and these are all, I think, repetitive. There will come to a time in Buddha mentioned in the Dikha Nikaya, in one of the, which sutta I forgot. It mentioned that when a human being age at 10, your age limit will only be at 10 years old. And women or the girl this time, by 5 years old, they can give birth already. Then during that time, there's no hiri and ottappa anymore. Then the time the Buddha said that whenever your hands can grab anything, that thing will turn into a weapon to kill others, to hurt others. And then the world will go into chaos. And then there were a few virtuous people, the Buddha says that they will hide in the mountains, hide in the forest. And then when all this over, they come out from the forest. They come out from this one. And they make a vow that not to kill, not to go through all these things. And because of that, because of those virtues, as mentioned by the Buddha, the lifespan of the human being will start to increase again. It will increase up to 100,000 years. The human being's lifespan will increase up to 100,000 years. That is the limit. And then with that, after that, 100,000 years, then it will decline. It will decline again to 10 years old. And then things will start again. Whether it's within one cycle of Earth and whatever it is, doesn't matter. But those things will keep on going and going and going. Of course, it's a very long time. This is what the Buddha sees in the future because this has happened in the past. So, hiri ottappa. Okay? Then. So these two is most important right now. There are people right now, you can see Sometimes you look at the politics, whether here or there or anywhere. Sometimes people have no conscience, no shame, no fear, no dread that they can able to become corrupt, or they can not only financially corrupt, but they can corrupt the mind of others. Yeah? They can corrupt the mind of others. They can make them into racist. They can make into sexist. They can make them into gender phobia, and then they can make them into this phobia, that phobia, and they can able to turn you. Yeah. They can like also not only this, also religious people. Sometimes they are also another this one, and then they can turn in the whole society into upside down. Yeah. So these things is happening in the world right now. But luckily, of course, there are also still people with hiri and otapa, and therefore it is your duty, your own duty, for your own sake or for your own happiness, then you should look for people with hiri and otapa. If you mix with these people without hiri and without otapa, then you will fall into a lot of undesirable, unhappy, unpleasant destination, or unhappy life, or unhappy rebirth, on unpleasant rebirth, even in hell. Here in this talk, normally I don't go into like if you kill, what are your consequences will be. The Buddha mentioned, if let's say like if you want to read about those things, what are the consequences of unwholesome actions or wholesome actions, then maybe I can just for a short while, I share with you something. You go back and read for yourself. This one I'm not going to read for you. Not this. Sorry, let me open this. I share with you in the one of Majjhima Nikaya, and the Buddha talk about the consequences of wholesome or unwholesome actions. Let me go through. Give me a minute. Let me see. Hold on. Okay, this one. Okay. Go back my Zoom. Screen sharing. Okay. Hey. Not this one. This one. This one. Wait. Can you all see? This Chulakama Vibhanga Sutta. Okay. You. Oh, sorry. Okay. Now this one, this sutta, you want, because all the time we talk about consequences of breaking this precept or that one, then it will be helpful to know where is it come from. So this one spoke a lot of it. So the next page is this. Take for example, paragraph number 5. Can you all see in the paragraph number 5? Okay, make it bigger for you. Okay. Oh, sorry. Hold on. Now, here, student, because this sutta was student of another sect and talking to the Buddha. Here, students, some man or woman kills living being and is murderous, bloody-handed, giving blows to violence, merciless to living beings. Because of performing and undertaking such action on this dissolution of the body after death, he reappears in a state of deprivation, in unhappy destination, in perdition, even in hell. But if on the dissolution of the body after death, if he does not reappear in the state of deprivation, in unhappy destination, in perdition, in hell, but instead comes back to human state, then wherever he is reborn, he is short-lived. This is the way, student, that leads to short life, namely, one kills living beings as murderers, bloody-handed, given blows and violence and merciless to living beings. So the Buddha talked about it in the opposite, why that abandoning, and then after that he talks about injuring others. What is the injuring and so on? He talks about criticizing, angry, and so on. Begrudge, jealousy. So all these things, I think that it's good for you to go and read about those things, because these things we only can trust what the Buddha says. We cannot, if we do not have the ability directly, we don't have the direct knowledge of a divine eye, that we can go into directly, when we able to see how beings appear and reappear, and how when they appear and reappear, they able to see what actions that they have done, they reappear in such a condition, whether it's happy or unhappy. So if we do not have those things, if we do not have those ability, if we do not have this abhinya, the psychic powers, or the direct knowledge, then we only can trust the Buddha. So we can, those things we trust the Buddha for. In our morality here, when we cultivate this morality, here is that we want to get out of this cycle of birth and rebirth, because they are the foundation, and you give rise to a lot of wholesome mental states, and we want to use that wholesome mental states in this very life. We get out of this samsara as best as possible, or as near as possible. We don't want to wait until the next life and so on. So here we want to cultivate for the sake of getting out of samsara, not waiting to see what are the consequences, or what are the happy destination and so on. We want to follow into, hopefully to convince you, don't just to follow into that. In any way, the next thing I want to look into it is this. Okay. Now, the next thing I want to look into it is there are many types of sila. Okay, let's look into it here. There are types of sila. Again, can you see again? Okay. All right. Now, there are types of sila. Many types of sila, if you want to categorize them. In the earlier part, when we talk about the 4 types of sila as intention, as mental factors, that when you talk about what is virtue, virtue is intention. What is virtue? Virtue is mental factors, wholesome mental factors in that sense. But here we're going to categorize the sila into different ways. Okay, let's look at it to, first of all, the first one. There are a lot of it, and I didn't go through all those things. What are the types of sila? First, we have performing and avoidance. Charita and Varita sila. Charita sila, Varita sila. Charita sila means you perform. What do you perform here? You perform means you do, you act, you talk about it. That means you speak truthfully, for example. That is performing. You act on dana. You act upon dana, and you act dana, and then you pay respect, and then you do services. You do these things. That is called performing. It falls under performing. And then it falls under avoidance. Of course, those things like you shouldn't kill, shouldn't steal, you abstaining from stealing, all these things, that falls under avoidance. So this is very clear, right? Yeah. Oh, all right. Somebody just asked me about where do I get all these things? This one, all these things. Where do you get all this? This one, if you want to read about these characteristics of sila, you go into Majjhima Nikaya. Sorry, not Majjhima. Visuddhimagga. Visuddhimagga, first chapter. Not too difficult a chapter, but they don't mention a lot of things. They don't mention a lot of examples. Here I understand what it means. I can give you examples. Whereas when you read in Visuddhimagga, you have to read a number of times. Then only you can able to understand what it means. Anyway, this is all from Visuddhimagga. One thing is that this Visuddhimagga, it's good because it compiles all the sila from everywhere, from all this, from Vinaya, from Abhidhamma, from suttas, they compile it into a topic. Then it makes my life easier. It makes your life easier, in fact, also. That we can able to understand. If not now, we have to go and search for the sila and where to. Then it's kind of like very tedious, because a lot of film is being offered in this way. So all these things, I get it from Visuddhimagga. But the thing is that reading is one thing, but whether you can understand it in a clearer detail, that is another thing. So you have performing and you have avoidance. So performing by faith and effort, by performing by keeping by faith and effort. So here, when you want to do dana, when you want to do dana, you have to have faith that this is something wholesome. This is something good. And then you must make the effort, whether it's physical effort, mental effort, you have to do it. You know that meditation is good. You know that meditation is good. Then you make an effort to do it out of faith. So what else? So something like this, you by performing, by effort, and by faith and effort. Avoidance here, that means by faith and mindfulness. You know that by doing unwholesome deeds, there'll be consequences. There'll be consequences. There will be unwholesome, unhappy resultant. So that is by faith, but you can't see the result yet, because that is in the future. But perhaps maybe you have past history that you have done something wrong and then you have been criticized and so on, perhaps. But there are also things that you cannot see. Performing unwholesome deeds, you cannot see where the result is going to come. But you trust the Buddha. You put faith in the Buddha that there will be unhappy resultant in the future, unpleasant resultant, unpleasant rebirth, unhappy rebirth in the future. So by mindfulness also, that means you're aware that this is something unwholesome. Then you use the mindfulness to restrain yourself, to pull back your actions from speaking or from doing unwholesome actions. So by mindfulness, also with mindfulness, also we prevent that unwholesome thoughts from arising in that sense. Okay? So by faith and by mindfulness. All right? There are dependent and independent. Dependent here means you're dependent upon false view and also dependent on craving. What do you mean by dependent on false view? Or for example, here a creator, a God, a creator, an almighty, or so on. Then the creator says that, or written in the book, usually. It says that in the book, it says that the God says that you must perform wholesome actions. You must perform charity. Okay, then the so-called the devotees will perform charity according to the what is being said by the Almighty. Yeah? Yeah. And then they hear the Almighty here, or the God here. The God here is permanent. Is a permanent entity. It's actually is all created by our own minds only, created by the own minds. But since it's connected to this false view, it's connected to false view. But in connection with the false view, you perform wholesome actions. You perform wholesome speech, like we can see in the world out there. You know, they have all kinds of wrong view, but they can still perform wholesome deeds. So this is called dependent upon the false view. Then dependent upon craving, that means you desiring of a happy rebirth or happy existence or happiness in this very life. You do not want to create any trouble to people. You also give a lot. You have a lot of filial piety, for example. You have a lot of what do you call that? You have or maybe you also you have 5 precepts also, and because with that 5 precepts, you wish to reborn in the heavenly planes. And then you find that is good. So this one is called dependent upon craving. Yeah? So sometimes it can be dependent on false view and craving. Sometimes it can be dependent upon the craving only without the false view. It's possible. Okay. Independent, that means that you're not dependent from false view and craving. And usually the independent here, we direct the virtue, we direct the sila for the purpose of liberation and so on. Even like you're dependent upon, let's say, jhana also, like your samatha jhana, that is still craving there. Because in the 10 higher factors, there's craving for form and craving for formlessness. There's still craving is still there. Even if you love and like the jhana. So independent here, that means is from full liberation. Okay. Then you have temporarily and lifelong. Now, temporarily here means you take up 8 precepts, 10 precepts, and when one decide the time limit here. Now here, lifelong here, for example, can be 5 precepts, or it can be any vow that you make. Let's say you make a certain vow that you for this whole life that I want to keep that particular vow. Let's say even simple example, you want to be a vegetarian. Okay, whole life I'll be vegetarian, let's say. And that it becomes lifelong. 5 precepts for a lot of us is lifelong. The moment you understand the teachings of the Buddha, then we keep the 5 precepts lifelong. Then the 8 precepts for a lot of you, it may not be a lifelong thing. It may be you go for a retreat. You go to a time that you spend 2 weeks or 3 weeks in the meditation centers or in a temple or in a certain place you want to practice or you want to develop, or you just want to give your service to the monastery, and then you take up the 8 precepts. Also possible. The 8 precepts or 10 precepts also, you can take it as a lifelong, and that means let's say you become a nun. And you want to you became a nun, and you want to stay. Okay, I want to be a lifelong nun. So you take up these 8 precepts as lifelong. Now these 8 precepts, especially like these 8 precepts. Sometimes people thought that these 8 precepts you must keep it while you are in a retreat and so on. Actually, not necessary. These 8 precepts, and you can keep it within an hour or 2 hours or 3 hours or 4 hours or 5 hours. Perfectly so. No problem at all, Here, sometimes when we conduct a retreat, what happened within this? Some people who take up 8 precepts, there are some people who take up 5 precepts, because they are sitting in the group of together, in that sense. So when the monk is giving the 8 precepts, then when it comes to the third precepts, instead of kamesu, it's the other one. Veramani, Abramacharya Veramani Sikapadam Samadhiyami. This, when you come to the third precepts, then the chanting becomes softened. First precept, second precept, very loud. Panadipata Veramani, very loud. Second precept also very loud. Then third precept very soft. Only the people with the 8 precept they chant. Then the 5 precept they don't chant. Then after that, the 4th precept was so loud again. Then the 5th precept was so loud again. Then come to the 6th precept was so soft. 7th precept soft. 8th precept soft. Then after that, the monk usually will give the idang me punyang, idang me silang. That one also become loud again. You know what happened here? Sometimes people with the 5 precepts, they thought that while the monk is giving the 5 precepts, while the monk is giving the 8 precepts, I should not take the 8 precept because I'm only 5 precept. After I take the 8 precepts, then I cannot get to eat my food, or whatever they're thinking, So next time, so happen if you come to this type of crowd now, if you have come to this type of crowd and you are in the crowd with those with 5 precepts and you are taking 5 precepts, next time you can take 8 precepts, no problem, even for the Dhamma talk, for the duration of the Dhamma talk. And it's perfectly all right. Say the duration of the Dhamma talk is like 1.5 hours. So you can make a determination. Okay, for 1.5 hours, I'll take this 8 precept. Whether before you come in for the talk, let's say you just had your dinner, you just had your dinner, and they say, oh, just now I had my dinner, cannot take 8 precepts already. Your 8 precept doesn't depend on your dinner. Sometimes a lot of time people misunderstood, So next time when the monk is taking the giving 8 precepts, you take up also is perfectly all right. Since you 8 precepts is more merits for you. After that you give up and you know that you are taking up 5 precepts again. So next time, the whole hall is everybody can chant the 8 precepts. Don't worry about one getting louder and then one after soft and then loud again. All this thing because of misconception, misunderstanding about what is temporary and what is lifelong here. So temporary can be very short. Even these temporarily monks, and we call them the Akantuka monks. Akantuka monks, they are temporary monks, and there are people like in Burma, especially like in the April when it comes to their holidays. Then there are people who take up just 1 day as a bhikkhu. Some take up 1 week as a bhikkhu. Some take up 2 weeks as a bhikkhu. Also the same thing. Just like in Thailand also, as a rite of passage, as they become adult, sometimes they take up 2 weeks as a monk, then you're coming something like that, temporary, okay, lifelong, okay. Then you have limited, unlimited. Limited by fame, gains, relative, and wealth, and etc. Again, here when you have your morality is out of fame, out of gain. For example, you offer something Yeah. You offer something to the monk, let's say, or you offer something to the deva, you offer a bowl of rice, or you offer the food, during the festivals, you offer food, you offer the deva, ang kong popi popi, ha, kalau lang ping an kwai long, ha, wa man tan lui tan ka che lang po. Then you want wealth, you want this and you want that, So that is all. Your virtue is limited. So you, out of fame, out of gains, out of name, sometimes you do dana. Hey, I give you this dana. Make sure you put a plaque for me and put that in the wall. So I want, next time I come, I want to see my name there. Okay. Name and fame. So sometimes, like a politician also, they give to the poor, but then they also invite the reporters or journalists. Come and to take some photos to write up about it. See how good the politician is, out of fame, out of name, and so on, right? This is called limited. Although the offering is still wholesome, it's commendable, but it's connected still with this fame gain. Of course, behind it is all craving, attachment, greed. So unlimited here is not limited by all these type of things. So unlimited here. So that is wonderful. And again, here we have mundane and supramundane. Just like when we begin to talk about the noble eightfold path, we have mundane and supramundane. Mundane here that means subject to taints. That means it brings happiness in the future. It gives you to rebirth also, and also is a prerequisite for your liberation. So while you are here right now and you have not liberated, you have not attained the path and fruition yet, then all your morality is still fall under mundane. That means it still give rise to your happy rebirth. Well, you're still in samsara after all, And then when you're supramundane, it's not subjected to taints, not with path and fruit. Not subjected to taints. That means it's connected with path and fruition consciousness, knowledge of reviewing. Number 16 here means the 16th insight knowledge, the knowledge of reviewing. Path and fruit. Path here is 14, fruition is 15. Then knowledge of reviewing is 16. Okay, so that's connected. We go a little bit more. Hold on, you don't run away yet, tonight. A little bit more. I think I prepared too much. 6. Inferior, medium, superior. Inferior virtue here means is connected with gains and merits. Gains and fame and wealth and worldly things, all these worldly desires. Number 2 is that you gain for merits. Now this is where the people, like especially in the Buddhist community, okay, they go in dana, this one. Bante, I offer this so that I gain a lot of merits, and with these merits, I can able to be happy, reborn in the better planes of existence. When they understand it as karma and its effect, it's perfectly all right. But still the taints are there. Still, it tainted by merits in that sense. Superior here means that the virtue is practiced for the state of liberation. Again, here, inferior, superior. Inferior again, you have for the purpose of continual existence. Medium here means you want to practice for yourself, with liberation for yourself. And superior, you want to practice for yourself and other beings. That means, like, for example, like the Bodhisattva. So practice for liberation of oneself. All right. Nowadays also, there's a lot of people who wants to practice for the sake of others also. Okay. Whether that is fall under superior or not, I'm not very sure. But what I'm sure is that, like Bodhisattva, they want to practice it for this one. Number 7, diminution, lessening here, stagnation, distinction, penetration. Here, the first one is like What is diminution means is lessening. This is actually not really a virtue, in the sense that you are doing a lot of unwholesome actions, unwholesome speech. That means you mix with the fool, your senses are unguarded, your wrong thoughts. Therefore, it goes into lessening and it goes into diminishing and so on, the virtue. Stagnation, that means your virtue or your precepts are stagnation because you are just being satisfied with your 5 precepts. You're satisfied just for the happiness of everyday life and the next. For example, you may not be a Buddhist. You may be a person. You have compassion for the everyday, for the people. You want to do charity. You don't want to lie to others and so on. There are people who have those habits, manners in that sense. So, but they are satisfied in that way. They're happy in that way. To ask them to do more than that, to develop further, to refine the virtue, I think enough already lah. Stagnate like that. I just want to be like that. A stagnation. Distinction here. That means you strive for calmness and concentration. Distinction means your virtue, you practice virtue because you want that jhana. You want that calmness, you want that concentration and so on. But you do not want liberation yet. So for example, like in the past, in the Buddha's time, before the Buddha's time, let's say there are people who have a lot of jhana. So they have a lot of virtue too. That they strive for the calmness and concentration for the jhana, but not for liberation yet. Only when the Buddha comes in, then the virtue is for the sake of getting out of this cycle of birth and rebirth, or to cut off from these defilements. So this is also mentioned. Again, like yesterday, no, not yesterday, on Saturday. On Saturday, I talk about this Parisuddhi Sila here. Then there are 4. Here, I do not want to go too many because here is a lot of things that we can talk about. Maybe I was thinking that these things, some of these things I can talk about a little bit more. And then also concerning of requisites and so on, this is all concerning with the monks. And also some parts also concerning with the lay people also, if they come in, especially when they come into meditation practice. If you are in the everyday life, then you may not see this as important to you. But when it comes into meditation, or you become a nun, or you become a novice, or you become a bhikkhu, and so on, bhikkhunis, and so on, then here will be very important for you. All right. So I think now, actually, I got one more thing, but I think next talk, next talk. If not too much tonight. So this is something for you to think about. All right. So we stop here for tonight, and we will continue the talk on Wednesday at the same time. Okay. Now we share merits.